In just months from now, this will be us, a pool of possibility. Citizens who are decided, undecided, or maybe just don't care. But this is the United Kingdom, where some of the campaign rules are just a little different. And in a general election that's long been too close to call, what happens tomorrow could be the result of a little something unexpected too.
Just another shade of blue. Bastards too.
In the shadow of the UK Parliament, there is discontent. The protesters, many of them young, don't speak for everyone, of course, but express a sentiment we've heard elsewhere in the streets about a confusion, a disconnect with the political elite.
And mostly, I don't actually think they care what we think, actually.
Many simply feel politically abandoned.
Like me, I'm 20 and I've never voted from the time I could be able to, just because I don't know who to vote for. And I feel like whoever I vote for, they're still going to do the same thing anyway.
So, no desire for business as usual in politics. But now, maybe, just maybe, these voices are starting to be heard.
3, 2, 1.
An election debate. At first blush, pretty standard stuff. But look a little closer. No prime minister. Nobody you'd recognize even if you follow UK politics.
We need to get rid of the House of Lords. We need to scrap it, abolish it entirely.
The problem with Westminster and the problem with the bubble we have is that it seems to be so very cliquey.
These are the leaders of the youth wings of the 7 major parties. And this is the first ever youth leaders debate in the UK.
We've been completely failed by governments on everything in terms of employment.
So it's imperative that we engage, we involve, and we start to have a discussion. Because otherwise democracy can't work. You can't call yourself a democracy when half your generation, the people in your country don't care or don't engage or have no idea how democracy in your country works. It just doesn't make sense.
Just look at the numbers. In the UK's last general election, only 44% of 18 to 24-year-olds cast ballots, much less than the overall turnout at just over 65%. And considerably lower than the oldest age group, the over 65s, more than 3/4 of them voted. That's the highest disparity than in any other developed democracy. And it leaves a lot of room for improvement. It's why Matteo Bergamini took his debate concept and ran with it to the UK's Channel 4. The debate streamed on one of its digital services, one of several network programming choices meant to spark interest in the vote. Here's another one.
Darren, how many times have you missed life-changing events because you wanted to watch your favourite shows?
Channel 4 is pulling the plug election day on a digital channel that usually serves up sitcoms popular with youth.
May the 7th is election day, and Darren is going to turn E4 off. So you might as well go and vote.
It's important to engage anybody in politics, but young people are inheriting this country, are inheriting the world. And if they're not interested, if they're not engaged, and if they're not in the discussion as such, their voices aren't going to be listened to. So the people that we're effectively catering our country for are the elderly, the ones that aren't going to inherit the planet.
It's basically an entry point to politics for those, the suspected 250,000 that don't even know where to begin with politics.
Matt Morley and Tom White are hearing the complaints too, as they tour student unions and other gathering spots all over the UK.
There's just been a decline of discussion about politics in everyday life almost. There's been the media is so full of other things now.
If you talk to people about the issues, they do get engaged.
Morley and White have been on a campaign of sorts, all their own. They created a platform meant to match people to the party most closely aligned with their beliefs.
Do you both have your phones on you? If you type in tick box, we've made a website that, like I said, it just tries to break down those barriers and make politics for everyone, especially if you have no idea at all.
That's right, a kind of voting app for the click and swipe generation.
Do you think this is something that would help young people?
Yeah, definitely, because I didn't know who to vote for before I'd done that, and that's saying Labour to me, so.
I'd advise my mates to go on that and see what they thought. Because there's a little bit of information that you don't know, because the only things that you see is the newspapers and it's quite confusing.
I don't believe there's nothing to relate to. I think when it is made relatable, when there's something that someone can understand, people in the age of today's commodity expect to be able to access things in a way that makes sense to them. On-demand services are built around the voter or user in this case.
Hi there, how you doing? Nice to see you. You mid-haircut.
What does not make sense, according to some, is this. But if not campaign rallies and photo ops, what is the UK's younger generation paying attention to in a tight race where their votes could make the difference? Who are they listening to? The answer may surprise you. In a recent analysis of politically influential voices in the UK, David Cameron ranked first. No real surprise there. I mean, he is the Prime Minister. Other major party leaders and politicians filled out some of the rest of the top 10. Even journalists made the list. But look who came in at number 2. Russell Brand.
One liver spot.
Wait a minute, Russell Brand? The actor, comedian, former husband of pop star Katy Perry? Yep, in the last couple of years, political activist too. To help explain the Brand phenomenon, we went to the man who came 8th in that top 10 list. He's left-of-center columnist and commentator Owen Jones.
Young people are so disillusioned in this country. They're so full of fear and despair. And so many of them feel disengaged with the political process. And Russell Brand has come to kind of encapsulate that disillusionment.
Is it true you don't even vote?
Yeah, no, I don't vote.
Well, how do you have any authority to talk about politics then?
Well, I don't get my authority from this pre-existing paradigm, which is quite narrow and only serves a few people.
He infamously said that he wasn't going to vote, and that caused a big kind of debate in this country about the nature of democracy.
I'm very proud to be just another member of your Occupy movement. Thank you very much.
More than that, Brand has gained notice as an anti-establishment protester. He's supported the struggle of working-class residents threatened with eviction by big corporations. And he helped open a non-profit cafe whose employees include former drug addicts like Brand himself. Those who know him say he just gets it.
I like about Russell in the truths is kind of he speaks for people, you know, just the average person.
The Trues, or the True News, as Brand insists, is the title of a show he broadcasts through his wildly popular YouTube channel.
Hello, welcome to The Truth. Did you watch that weird TV programme last night where people talked about politics behind podiums and tried to act like they was normal people? Does it mean anything?
Tackling issues of the day from inside his own home.
Where there's empty houses and there's homelessness, let's deal with it. When there's an excess of land controlled by the aristocracy, let's take it. When there's media barons that have excessive control and influence, we're going to break down their monopolies. We're going to need people to come together collectively and...
Sometimes from his own bed.
We need a revolution. That's some True News. Subscribe here.
The message of, for me, that democracy isn't something you do every 5 years. It happens every day. He's just trying to say, whatever you think about voting, protesting, organising, campaigning, is a great way of getting your message across.
Obviously, notoriously...
Brand's message and style are divisive and controversial, to be sure, but there's no denying his reach. With well over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, young people especially turn to Brand because it's him, not politicians, who seem to speak their language. That may be why, in the final stretch of the campaign, Cameron's main challenger, Labour Party leader Ed Milliband, gambled.
I'm not taking my shoes off.
Don't you dare.
And climbed into Brand's den of notoriety.
The reason I have never voted in my life is because I think it don't matter which one. We all got excited about Tony Blair. We all got excited about Barack Obama. What happened?
I'm not looking for euphoria, right? I know that sounds a bit weird. Obviously, you know, I want to get rid of the Tory government, and that's going to be a very good thing for the country. First of all, you don't want politicians saying, vote for me and on day one the world is transformed. It ain't going to be like that, right? It ain't going to be like that. But you've got to have a government that is willing to say there's something wrong with this and we're going to deal with it.
You're that government.
Yeah.
Suddenly a jolt to an otherwise fairly ho-hum campaign. Cameron denounced the encounter.
Russell Brand's a joke, right? Ed Miliband, hang out with Russell Brand. He's a joke.
Miliband defended it.
This election has huge implications. So, as I say, I'll engage with anyone, anyhow.
Later winning Brand's endorsement, and social media lit up.
Milliband, as it's now being described on Twitter.
Carl Miller analyzes what happens on social media, particularly in relation to this election campaign.
So actually we found that Russell Brand has 3 times more Twitter followers than every single British parliamentarian put together. That's incredibly powerful. So I think this is calculated. I think this is Milliband trying to use Russell Brand as a way of reaching undecideds, which often their messaging on social media, as it is offline, really struggles to get hold of, and much less to convince.
Which isn't to say digital messaging in general isn't valuable. Just take a look around. Not much political signage. In London, at least, streets full of placards are so yesterday. Combine that with the fact that paid political advertising on TV and radio is banned in the UK, and the online campaign takes on added significance.
Welcome to the Conservatives' YouTube channel.
There's no rule that prevents the Conservative Party, for example, from posting this attack ad on YouTube or Facebook. Or then there's Milliband's encounter with a bachelorette party, sparking some of the most talked about memes of the campaign. Turns out a lot of that Twitter love, #Millifandom, was actually set off by a serious attempt at engagement by youth. The teenager behind the trend writing, "Millifandom is not a joke. It's young people trying to make themselves heard," earning the candidates direct response. There's a lot at stake at this election for young people. Talk about making a connection.
34% of young people say that social media will influence their vote. Now that's second only to the leaders' debates, and it's much higher than polls, much higher than newspapers, much higher than leaflets. The million-dollar question underlying all of this, all the millions of tweets and Facebook posts and fortunes are being spent on advertising, is in how will this actually convert into action on the day?
So, what exactly strikes a chord and what does not? With British youth, that's for analysis in the days and weeks ahead. But tomorrow, many may wonder, wouldn't it be something if the next government of the United Kingdom was determined by the generation who will longest be part of its future?